The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Don't adjust your scream. There is nothing wrong. You're about to enter a world where the very concept of time is rendered obsolete by the sheer power of entertainment. You're about to enter the Boggis Hour. Of the Boggis Hour, Greg Boggis!
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Boggis Hour, where I have in studio one of the great comics out of the Boston area. She's been on Nick at Night. She was just on Comics Come Home. She's crazy, she's funny, she's entertaining. Her name is Christine Hurley, and she's here today. Well, here I am, sitting down on the Boggis Hour with Christine Hurley, comedian,
Woohoo!
Suppressed mother.
Yes, that's me, suppressed housewife. I'm a suppressed housewife, Greg, yes. Housewife first.
Housewife first.
Yes, that's me.
Well, thanks for coming up from Massachusetts to New Hampshire.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Great to see you in person once again. We've worked together a few times.
We have been lucky
enough. On the radio and the stage.
Fantastic.
And I always enjoy your stand-up comedy.
Thank you, sir.
And you've got an interesting story about how you got into comedy.
Yes.
So I'm just gonna just throw it right into your lap. How did you get into doing stand-up comedy?
Well, it was all kind of a great mistake. Kind of a big. It was great. I've always been pretty funny my whole life, and I've been married to my husband, Jimmy Hurley, for about close to 30 years, and we were high school sweethearts, and I was always funny then. And so for years, he's always said, "You're funny, you're funny, you're funny." When I was a kid, I used to enjoy, I used to love the Flip Wilson album, the Red Fox album. I was very into comedy. My dad was into it. Fast forward, I get married, I have the kids, I blow up like the Hindenburg, I become unfortunately wider than I am taller, and God love Jimmy Hurley, he still hit that, but then I would, might have to edit that, and then so I had no confidence, but he would always say, "Let's do an open mic, let's go to an open mic, you're a funny person, people love, that what you'd say," and I didn't have a set, I just had stories that I told about my life, my depressing life with the kids, and one automobile, and my crappy life. And Nick and I went in 2003. I had a gastric bypass, the operation where they sew your stomach up, and I got magically skinny, and which was a beautiful thing. No cocaine involved whatsoever.
No, none whatsoever.
Nope, not that time. Nope. And so Nick at Night at that time, probably 9 years ago now, was looking for the funniest mom in America. They wanted to do a little TV special on Mother's Day that year. So God love Jimmy. He said, "Let's go. You're the funniest mom in America. Let's go." So we went down to New York. We took my oldest daughter at the time, who was 14 at the time. We didn't know what we were doing.
We're going on a road trip,
We're
kid.
going on
Let's
a road
go.
trip, kid. Let's go. Yeah, it was like she was like her mother was Bob Dylan or something. So she was great. So we took her with us, and we ended up at the Laugh Factory in Times Square. That's where they had the auditions. I auditioned. It was magic. The light went on. As soon as the light went on, I knew I was home. I just knew.
And you had a 5-minute set?
I think it was 5 minutes. Greg, which I had nothing prepared, and I had nothing.
You just kind of really flew by the seat of your pants.
Exactly, which was great.
Wow.
Which was because I had no idea any other way was I had no idea you were supposed to have a set. So it was great.
But you knew that you were a funny person because you've been making people laugh for a long time. So there's that
all the time.
There is that baseline confidence that you know, but translating that into stand-up comedy is a bit of a different task.
It was different, and I think it was definitely different, but it still felt like the same. Like all I did, I treated it like just telling a story at a friend's house, like I always did, telling a story at a family party, or wait till you guys hear this one, and and then I learned as I went along in the years. I learned how to, I learned setup. I learned
punch tag.
Exactly. I
call
learned
back.
Exactly, and I learned,
how to, basically all the tools that go into making it better.
Exactly. Like with me, I take you on a journey of my life as a mother and my life as a wife, and so I introduce all the main characters at the beginning of it. Try to do that in funny ways, like Jimmy Hurley and my kids, and
Right.
so that way people come, I think, a little more invested. And believe me, Jimmy's more famous than I ever will be. I ever will be.
Everybody knows
Yep.
the name Jimmy Hurley.
Believe me, that's the most questions and emails I get. Is there really a Jimmy Hurley? Yes, Virginia.
He's not a mythical
He is
person.
not a mythical person. He is the real deal.
So it sounds like one of the things that makes people so responsive to your humor is identification. That you're able to present things that many people themselves experience and can't necessarily explain it in a way that you explain it.
Exactly. Every single gig I do, every show I do, every performance I do, someone will come up and say, "That's my life. That was my whole life. That's exactly my life. That's how I live."
Right.
It's all identifiable, and housewives love it, and even Jimmy gets a kick out of it because even the men love it because
Right.
they because I beat up on Jimmy a lot, and the men laugh because they know that's them too.
That's their life.
That's their life. They're doing the same crazy things. So it's great. It's great.
So he's obviously got a great sense of humor too.
Oh, yeah.
And so as over the years, was a lot of your he was your audience for a long time? I would
Always my
imagine.
audience. He
And
and,
so-
my mom and dad, my folks always thought I was the funniest person on earth, and but Jimmy really, if he laughs, I know it's going to work. Like because he's really very smart. He's smarter than he looks, but he's smart. He really gets good humor. We always had the same sense of humor, even when we met when we were 16 years old.
Really?
We just had that right off the bat. Like we thought the same things were funny that maybe other people didn't, and so that's really what I think bonded us. And now I know if he laughs at something, that's a keeper.
It's gonna work.
It's gonna work.
He's
yeah.
your, what is that? Your test, your field.
Yeah.
Your field study there.
Yeah, exactly. That's what he's like. He's like
Petri
my little.
dish.
He's like a little petri dish. He's like my little pathology lab. Yeah, that's what he's like. Yeah, he's just So if he laughs at it, I know it's funny, and
So-
that's the best person to make laugh is him.
So you said when you were growing up, you liked certain people
Yes.
that made you laugh.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned a couple of them.
Carol Burnett, of course, number one. Carol Burnett. I was in awe of her because although I didn't know at the time, I was young that she was a woman. This was a big deal. And even Vicki Lawrence, like her little
Sure, Vicki
sidekick
Lawrence is
there,
wonderful.
was great. And I used to think, wow, this is great that they can do this. The Sonny and Cher Variety Hour, I don't know if anyone remembers that. I used to
Sure
love their
do.
monologue. I used to think Cher was, I thought she was so brilliantly funny.
Right.
And then, of course, Flip Wilson, Red Fox, Laugh-In, not so much. Laugh-In, I even at a young age thought was corny, I think. I really had very little patience for it.
Shock it to me.
Yeah, exactly. And I can even remember my folks being like, And and my dad had he had an old machine. It was a reel-to-reel tape machine.
Yeah.
And he drove a cab in Boston
Oh,
when
gosh.
I was a baby. So he would drop all these comedians off at clubs and different things like that. And then he'd go in and tape them, do reel-to-reels like he has.
Really?
And he has like Jimi Hendrix tapes and all. So
Oh,
we
my
would
gosh.
we would listen to those, and as off color as they were, my dad always treated me like it's not nice to say, but boy, is it
But
funny.
you can listen to
Yeah,
it.
but you
Right.
can listen to it. Yeah, he
Right.
was always
Well,
very
I
good
think
about
that's
that.
one of the things that's kind of cool, that there are people that are able to do that with their kids. So, there's things that other people can do that are entertaining, that are their job, and there's no
Absolutely.
need for you to emulate them. You
No.
can enjoy them.
Exactly,
You don't need to,
exactly. You're right.
do heroin in order to be a blues guy.
Exactly, Greg. It's take your own path. But my dad, I give him a lot of credit. He really was always very never. Anything I wanted to learn or hear, or he would let.
Yeah,
let
it
happen.
seems to me that that's the way to allow people to blossom.
Oh,
and
it
open up,
definitely
as
is.
opposed to shutting them down.
It definitely
You
is.
shut people down, and number one, that makes them want to go around you because.
Exactly. And me, on the other hand, I'm terrible. I'm like the antithesis of that. Because we have 5 children, and my oldest 3 are girls, girl. So, this goes way back, and, one of them we beat. And when I go to college, I say, you're not going to college. So now we've got 3 girls that don't go to college. But other than that, right, it's all fine. It's okay. Yeah, so my poor daddy did a great job with me. Me with my kids, not so much. What are you
Now,
gonna
how
do?
many siblings did you have?
I had 1.
Oh, okay.
Yep, just 1. Yeah.
And are you the oldest or the youngest?
I'm the oldest.
You're the oldest.
Yep. I'm the oldest.
And
Yep.
you got a sister or brother?
Sister.
Sister.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sister. Yeah. That's a whole ugly story, but yeah, she's not like me. I'm the good seed in the family, believe you me,
You
Greg.
got the funny bone.
Yes, I did. I got everything.
Well, remember there was an old Saturday Night Live skit about Lillian Carter talking about Jimmy and Billy. Jimmy got the brains, Billy got the cardboard box.
You know what, when my boys were little and they share a room, we used to call them Billy and Whitey. Same premise. There's a good one, there's a bad one. What are you gonna do? You know, what are you gonna do? What the heck are you gonna do?
So you had a good like a good education, comedic education watching, like I said,
Huge.
Sanford and Son, Red Fox
Yep.
was, and what freaks me out is that Red Fox I think was like my age now.
Yes.
When he was on that show, and back
And you
then as a
would-
kid, I mean, he looked like he was
80,
yeah, like an
90.
80-year-old,
And
90-year-old
remember,
man.
like Lenny Bruce, I can remember my dad having bootleg Lenny Bruce tapes, and geez, I'll probably get him arrested. And sorry, Dad. And and I can remember, listening to them over and over and over, and my dad just laughing so hard, and
Sure.
me getting it even at that young age.
Yeah, and Lenny Bruce was, totally out there as
Oh.
far as that era.
Oh my God, was he ever Toady Fields?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Loved Toady
I
Fields.
loved
Loved Joan
Toady
Rivers.
Fields.
Adored Joan Rivers. I
Sure.
can remember when she was on the Tonight Show, my dad would let me stay up to watch. So it was always, comedy was always a huge part of my life. But if you ever told me I was going to do it, no way.
So 8 years ago, you go to New York, you
Yep.
do it,
Yep.
and you do well.
Yep. It
And
went
so-
great. But like we were discussing earlier, I didn't know either way that if it wasn't going to go great, it didn't matter to me. You know what I mean? It was just like
Just
a fun.
doing it.
I'm just going to go do it, and we'll see. And I'm in New York, no one knows me. If I'm funny, great. If I'm not,
Sure.
I'll.
A couple hundred miles between here and
Exactly,
home.
exactly. It's not a big deal. So it just was meant to be. It just was meant to be. And we got home, and God love Jimmy. He's my manager. We call him Shecky. The kids call him Shecky. Shecky does all my bookings, and he really fought hard to get me, work. And you got to see my wife.
So you come back and you decide
come back,
to
and
jump
I said,
right
I'm
in.
going to do this. And I wanted to jump right in, but no one was taken. You know what I mean? No one was like, well, who
What
are
were
you?
you doing? Were you? I mean, I don't mean to say just a housewife. Were,
Oh,
were you a housewife?
I was, yeah. I did waitressing.
Yeah.
A little bit of waitressing, but nothing, I was nothing. So it didn't matter to me. You know what I mean? I really.
So it was almost like started out as a hobby, but
It
something
started
you
out
wanted to do.
as a hobby, but I know I loved it. I knew I loved it. So God
So
love.
it's a passionate hobby.
It was a passionate hobby that
Right.
I loved and missed when I didn't do it. And so then I knew something's.
Yeah, it's a real weird thing. You start doing it like,
Yeah.
yeah, that definitely fills some kind
It
of.
really, and I loved. I would
Inner
be,
spot.
wait. Yeah, I would wait for the show to come, but then but now I'm so lucky. I get to do it all the time. And
So just recently you were on a pretty big show,
yes,
and that show was.
Comics Come Home.
Explain to the.
Comics Come Home. It was at the TD Bank North Garden in Boston, the big
Which is a
garden,
big venue.
the Boston Garden.
The Garden.
And it was November 7th, and it was the 21st Comics Come Home, and it benefits the Cam Neely Foundation for cancer. Both his folks passed from cancer, so he's very involved and active in raising a lot of money.
Right.
For the hospital and getting them the best of everything to help these people. And he's just such a great guy. So it's the big thing when you're a Boston comic. If you get called to do
Well, that's a big thing.
to do Comics Come
Sure.
Home, it's
'Cause,
pretty
yeah, it's
huge.
one show a year, and
Exactly.
roughly there's like one or two,
Big biggies
guesty spots there,
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
everybody else,
is in it. I mean,
Yeah.
but it was rumblings were that the year before that they were thinking of having me on the year before, but then they kind of as the time was coming up, poor Lenny Clark called and he said, Christine, I don't think you're going to get it this year. He said, poor Joe Yanetti's sick. I always say, oh yeah, right, Joe, you got cancer. And then Tony V killed his mother, of course. So I mean, they had to give them the.
I heard about that. We all know.
The murder in Charlestown. So I had to. So those two, they deserved the spot, of course, absolutely, and I was fine with that because if it's meant to be, it's meant to be.
Right.
And lo and behold, don't you know, a couple months later, I get the phone call from Mr. Mike Clark, and he said, you're in. Sent me all the emails from Dennis Leary. And,
Awesome.
what's going on with the Irish chick married to the firefighter. And Mike really got me into it. He said, she's great, you definitely have her. And it was, I can't even explain to you how wonderful it was.
That's a big place and a lot of people.
Unbelievable. I think like 16,500,
Wow.
I think they ended up with, yeah. But it's strangely intimate.
Really?
It really was. It was very weird. Like the stage wasn't as big as I thought it was going to be, so that was good.
Right.
But the people are right there. You know, they put, and unless you look way out and look at the three tiers, you know, then you're like, ugh. But no, it went great.
I'm in a coliseum.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my God! I wish a lion would come out. But it was phenomenal. It was
Great.
a dream come true, and it went great. We each had 10 minutes, and I did great. Yeah, it was just.
And who else was on that show?
Oh my God.
Let's hear it.
Chris DiStefano, who's this great up and coming kid out of New York. He's an actor. He does Guy Code for MTV. Really,
Okay.
And a cutie. Hottie patati. The fabulous Lenny Clark, the fabulous Steve Sweeney, Stephen Wright,
Oh, wow.
Louis C.K.,
Holy smokes.
Ray Romano, Jimmy Fallon,
Gee whiz.
and Dennis Leary.
And?
Moi, Christine Hurley.
Hurley.
Yeah, I was the chick. Yeah, I was the estrogen.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
It was awesome, Greg. I'm so grateful and thankful. A little sad though, a little let down after. It's like after Christmas, kind of. You know, after it was over, I was like, now what? Now what are we gonna do?
That gig at the
Well, that was. I said to Lenny, I'm so
at the
depressed.
Dorchester Knights of Columbus isn't
Exactly.
going to seem as exciting.
Yeah, he said, hey, what do you complain for? He says, you and me Thursday night, Angry Hams in Framingham. Come on. Yeah, I mean, so believe me, it knocked me right back to earth very quickly, but it was just a brilliant, just a dream come true.
Pat Napoli's line was always Jiddo's Super Steak in Portsmouth. It was literally like a sub shop.
Oh, we've all been there.
Oh, we have all been there.
Yes, we have. Oh, yes, we have, Greg.
So where's the business taking you? You've done this. I mean, that's already one hell of an accomplishment
That was
right there.
pretty huge, and you know,
That's
there's rumblings. That's a nice big check.
Feather in the cap
That is
or
a feather
check
in the
off.
cap. So it was good because I was seen by a lot of good people, by the right people, and
Right.
you know, there have been inquiries. You know, can she act? Can she do this? Can she do that? So something's gonna happen.
Balls are rolling.
Yes, balls are rolling. Yes, balls are rolling. So something will happen. I have to really believe it, and
And I mean, you know, to put the business in perspective, your trajectory is quite fast.
yeah, I think so.
Really,
I think
compared
so.
to a ton of other incredibly talented people, but a lot of times you're talking about a 20-year ramp as
Right.
opposed to under a 10-year ramp.
That's what I try. I explain that to my dad, and Jimmy explains it to my dad and my mom too. That I'm lucky enough to be 10 years in, and I'm doing the work of 20, 25 years.
Sure, that's
Which is great.
a hell of a thing.
I'm so appreciative, and believe me, and and I have to say, Jimmy and I, we never bothered anybody. We never, I just let nature take its course,
Right.
and I had people like Johnny Peasy. He went to bat for me big time, big time.
I think that's one of the advantages of not being a kid too.
Yes.
Is that you are whatever
Mature.
you're mature. You've been
Disappointment
you've had
doesn't disappoint me.
the boot of life on your neck
I
at
have had,
points in time.
Greg, that's perfect. You're absolutely
You
right.
know, and
You're
so
absolutely right.
And you just know that there's certain things that you can't force, and that there's kind of a
Exactly. It's so true. And I find even in these past few years, like I'm 51 now, I find even as I go from like 48 to 51, I'm so much more, my skin's thicker. I know it is what it is.
right.
I'm not worried about everybody else. You know what I mean?
Right,
It's
I try to
different.
I used to try to tell people that about business is that number one, comedians are in the business of like busting balls.
Oh, yeah.
So when you hear that somebody has busted your balls,
You
who
gotta let it go.
cares?
That's their own insecurity.
yeah,
Believe me.
it's nothing to get overly wound up about.
You can't get wound up. That's perfect. You can't get wound up, and I don't. I really don't. I'm really good. I mean, there was a time where I was heartbroken, and at one time I opened for a big name. I won't say who it was. I opened for a big name. I was probably 6 months into the business, and I
Oh,
got the
wow.
opportunity to open for a big name. There was like 800 people there, and blah, blah, blah. So the person that was running the show said to me, "I want you to do 8 minutes." So I said, "Okay, 8 minutes. That's great." And and it was Palooza. There were like 10 people on this
Right.
show, plus the big headliner. So I get up there and do my 8 minutes, going great. The guy that's running the show says to me, "Keep going, great, keep going." So I keep going. I look up and I see another one of the comics walking across the tables. It was in a big Chinese restaurant.
Oh yeah.
screaming, "Get off that stage! Get off that stage!" Oh. So he said, "You went 12 minutes. You're supposed to do 8. Now this guy's not even going to get on stage, and this guy got cut." And this, I'm like,
no.
"Oh, so that did it." And I spoke to the gentleman the next day, and he said, "You're done. You're not going to work." So it was a good 2 or 3 years before I got back in Boston. But Johnny Peasy was a good man. He gave me a second chance, and he really, really, really was my mentor.
Yeah, Johnny does a lot of nice charity work. He does a
he
lot of. I just work
does.
for him for the veterans.
Yes,
place
the
down in
veterans.
Boston.
That's right.
And he does a
He
lot of
truly.
nice stuff.
He saw me, and when he first saw me, he was horrified because I was very filthy, which I thought was funny at the time. And he said, "You can't be that filthy. You gotta." He said, "Listen to me. I'm going to tell you what to do." And he did. And he mentored me, and then he got me in front of Lenny Clark, and that's all she wrote. That was just a dream weekend. It was the weekend of Valentine's Day. Coming up on 3 years ago now, so 2013 Valentine's Day.
And was that at Giggles?
It was at a club in South Boston, the Cornerstone.
Oh, okay.
And I had gone, and I was on a weekend with Lenny, a Lenny weekend. But Lenny's busy. I mean, he's going on after me, and we're ping-ponging between 2-3 shows a night. So he didn't see me a lot. But this Cornerstone show was the last one of the weekend, and
So he got to watch
I went up there, and he got there early, and yeah, I remember that. I'll never forget the phone call on the way home. He literally said, "Who are you? Like, I'm going to make you a star." Yep. So
Awesome.
he is. Yeah.
Well, then you are, because
Yeah.
that's why you're on the Boggis Hour.
I know that. You think I don't know that,
Obviously a
Greg? I
sign
know
of
that. I could barely contain myself.
Incredible success.
Yes, it is incredible success. Yes, it is like Pat Napoli's sub. Yeah.
Jitto Super
Jitto
Steak
Super
in
Steak.
Portsmouth.
Yeah. That's. No, this is a little better. I think.
A little
Yeah,
better.
a little better.
No greasy
No,
wrappers.
thank you.
So I guess we're getting close to we've hurtled through time.
Yes.
And I'd like to do what I usually do with the other comics, is ask them about some of the shows. So I'll
Okay.
start out. It's the 3 questions. It's
Okay.
the best, the worst, and the most unusual. So I think you may have already touched upon your best show.
My best, of course, the Boston Garden, the Comics Come Home. I will tell you that was my best show. I'll also tell you, though, right up there is the show that I actually got discovered from Lenny. The show at the Cornerstone, South Boston. It couldn't have been any better, and it will always be in my memory. And I knew when I left there that something magic had just happened, that I had
A switch had turned on.
a switch had
or
turned, and I had
off.
kind of gone another level. I just knew. You just
Right.
know. And so those are my definitely my best, tied for my best. My worst, I think it was there were 3 people. It was at Fall River. And I think there were 3
That explains it.
people. There you go. I think there were 3 people in the audience, and they were eating. It was a restaurant, and it was dinner time. They were eating. So I remember at the end, I was just like, "Hey, thank you so much. My name's Patty Ross." Terrible, just terrible. Like they weren't even listening to me, and it was just ugly. And I had a bad night at the Kowloon too, which was terrible because Michelle's so good to me. So I felt bad about that too. I did snap one night on stage. That was pretty bad. Some woman took out her cell phone. And
Oh, yeah. It's sometimes it's tough to not have
I might
to.
have said something about her genitalia or whatever. Blah blah blah. Long story short, I got kicked out, not her, but whatever. So that was my worst. And my what is
I
it?
was
most,
booked here. Get out.
Yeah. You're not anymore. Get out. No, you can't take the egg rolls.
And the most unusual.
Most unusual would have to be probably like a kid's birthday party, or I recall doing something like that once. So the most unusual, I think it was, it was for Catholic school.
Oh, no.
It was for Catholic school. Yep, and God love the little priest that was running the whole shindig came up to me before. He was the cutest little guy, and he said, "Let it go. Whatever you want to do." Well, he said, "They're all adults here.
Really?
I don't think they'll ever be the same." I was never asked back. There was not enough holy water to throw on that stage to burn away the nasty, awful thing I did up there, but awful.
The priest said I could.
That's exactly. And then at the end of the show, the poor priest came up on the stage and just had this look of like, oh my God. So I just looked at him and said, "Oh, Father Peebles, you're so fired." Poor Father Peebles.
Was he hitting you with
you
the
were
holy
fired.
water?
Oh, you bet he was. Holy cow! They all had garlic.
Oh,
it was
gosh.
bad. Terrible. That was definitely the strangest.
Yeah, it's always funny. Everybody's had different experiences.
Exactly.
I know Mike McDonald, George McDonald, talked about doing a show, and it was I can't remember what it was, but essentially, the woman of the dead man whose picture was behind the drapery came up and spoke, and then let's have our comedy.
Isn't that always the way?
It's
Have you ever
crazy.
done those? Or the fundraisers for these poor sick people when they show a video?
Yeah.
And now here's our comedy by Christine. I'm like,
Yeah, I remember doing one years ago, and there was literally this poor guy. It was like an industrial accident. The poor guy was in a wheelchair, like,
I mean,
wired up. I'm like,
yeah, exactly.
oh
Not
boy,
funny.
that's a tough opener.
This is not good.
That's a tough transition.
Exactly. I mean, oh my God. It's just, oh yeah, tough. I mean, I've had plenty of those, God knows. But no, I think the most awkward was definitely the Catholic school, because the whole time I'm up there and I'm saying, this isn't right. I shouldn't be. This is not. This is so awkward. Why are they doing this? Why? I mean, just, you know. And there's been definitely others that have been the worst. Recently we got in the car and I said, that was the worst.
That was it.
That was it, hands down. Nothing worse than that. Poor Jimmy, I wanted to kill those people. I mean, ugh. Some people just aren't going to like you.
Right.
And it's not, and sometimes it's not set up.
Right. I try to tell people that there's, there's external circumstances that can make for a bad show.
Absolutely.
Lighting, room
So
dynamics.
many things.
And there's another one, I can't remember who it was, but there was another comic, and he made some kind of quip about somebody dying in a fire, and it ended up like their beloved teacher had just died in a fire.
You never know.
And so you just say the one wrong thing.
You never know. I was doing a radio show.
There's no undigging that hole.
Someone's going to be mad. Someone's going to be mad, and I was doing a radio show once over the summer, this past summer, with Steve Sweeney, and as we're sitting there and at the studio, I see this crazy woman come like running around the corner, and what's wrong with you talking about your children like that? And I lost my son. I did feel terrible, but I'm like, I'm just joking. It's
right.
just,
I'm not talking about your kid.
I'm not. I do.
Right.
You do feel bad, but. Right. And we had someone wanted me to do a wedding. Like, I'm not,
Oh, yeah,
no.
there was a video of some couple, and the guy was, like, roasting everybody.
No way.
Brutally roasting.
Yeah.
Like,
No, not.
even if it was, like, a gag, it was just painful to watch. Like, oh, I hope that's just
It was
a phony video.
Did you watch the Golden Globes last night?
I did not.
Because that's really that's kind of a good lesson. I think every comic should watch that. These people try, Ricky Gervais, of course, who kills.
Right.
He just kills. But he's naturally, but then all these presenters get up these awkward, these actors that are trying to be funny. It was painful. It was beyond painful. It was just painful.
Well, one of these days, we'll have you on the Golden Globe.
Yes, we will, Greg.
Christine
You
Hurley
better
as a host.
believe it. You better
So
believe it. And
I'll-
I'm going to drop that Jimmy Hurley like a bag of dirt. You wait. I'm going to be famous. That's what I tell all my friends. You'll come out to Hollywood and they'll say, is Mrs. Timberlake home?
Well, I can't tell you how much of a pleasure it was
Greg,
to have
thank you.
up here
The
on the
pleasure was
Boggis
all
Hour.
mine.
And I hope to see you on the stage
Absolutely.
soon.
I'll be in
And
Portsmouth on
the
February
big screen.
12th.
You'll be in the Portsmouth on February 12th.
Portsmouth Music Hall, February 12th, with the fabulous Mike McDonald, Nick
Excellent.
DiPaolo, Greg Murphy, Paul D'Angelo.
That's a great show.
That's a good show. That's a whopper. And then the rest of that weekend, I'll be at Giggles with the fabulous Lenny Clark. Yeah, all kinds of stuff coming up. I have a website, ChristineHurleyComedy.com. Go on there, find my schedule. You can even email, and Shecky will email you right back.
And I did tell you that we did have a bit of a technical glitch when we were typing in who you were, and it was supposed to say suppressed housewife, and it only said suppressed hoe. So if that
That's
does,
more true than you know, Greg.
so if that does make
My
the
next life.
screen, I apologize beforehand.
Well, I've been called worse.
Christine Hurley,
Greg,
thanks for
thank
coming
you,
on the show.
honey. You're a prince.
Okay.
Thank you, honey. My pleasure. It was great. It was great. Fantastic.
If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on The Boggis Hour, email us here at theboggushour@gmail.com.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.